I'd be very pleased to know what they think they're doing. I think they're all insane.
And to perseverance, godliness, and to godliness, brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness, love. For if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ.
It was a transformation, that it is how you live that matters, not how you die.
The concept of zombies comes from Vodun. It's an African concept. And it's not about the living dead, it's about worshiping the ancestors, praising the ancestors. But the white supremacists, they flip that into something demonic where people are going to come out the ground and walk around and get you. And that's that boogeyman concept that they've created because of the Haitians rising up and getting revenge. And that's always been a scary thing for the white supremacists. African people rising up, getting revenge on them. That's the zombie mentality that they've created because that's their fear. When you look at the old zombie movies back in the 1920s and 30s and 40s, they would actually use Africans and Haitians as zombies.
And out of their West Indian island comes a tale of terror and voodoo, of witchcraft and zombies, and all the weird black magic that the white man...
What's good? I'm Jacob Denzel. Imagine showing these two pictures to a 6-year-old child. Which one do you think they say looks most like God? We know the answer to this. I'm pretty sure that if you walked into any kindergarten classroom in the world, the children would most likely agree that it's the picture on the left. Not only would they agree, I'd imagine that they'd argue down if you tried to convince them otherwise. It makes sense. About 7 billion people on Earth today, 4 billion of them subscribe to at least one of the major monotheistic religions, all of which refer to God as Him, He, or Father. So whether you believe God has a penis or not, you're surrounded by the mass conscious idea that God is in fact a male. But what if when we said God, our first thought was her, she, or mother? What would that look like? And even crazier, what if also when we thought of our Heavenly Mother, the first picture that came to mind was a black woman? What would the world look like? Let's check it out. So currently in our world where the common picture of God looks like this, we exist in a white supremacist patriarchy, meaning the privilege in this world tends to be granted to men, and the lighter and more masculine the man.
Hannah Stevenson, the 16-year-old girl from Detroit, accused of stabbing a classmate to death with a screwdriver last month. At her arraignment this afternoon, Hannah received the harshest possible sentencing from the judge. She will be tried as a black adult.
Due to the extreme and violent nature of this crime, this court finds it fitting to try the defendant as an African American. Henceforth, you will be referred to for the jury by the name Mondell Brown.
Once the trial begins next week, all courtroom images of Hannah will depict her as a 300-pound muscular black man, and jury members will be instructed to imagine her as such.
We're going to do our best to make sure that Hannah is treated with the sympathy and sensitivity that she, as a photogenic white girl, deserves.
This is America. Nobody deserves to be treated as a black man.
This is my house. I live here. Y'all just busted my door in and drew AR-15s on me. You need a warrant to bust my door in. I just had 4 cops with AR-15s on my front door and busted it down because somebody called them, said a Hispanic male had an AK-47 or whatever. And that's all the information you need to bust my door down? No, I'm mad. That's the question. Because I know you need more than I'm well versed in this.
Okay. Under normal circumstances, it does require a warrant. Under exigent circumstances, a warrant is not needed.
Exigent circumstances requires what? A full description. Okay. All you guys had was a Hispanic male. You had no clothes on. You had no kind of clothes. And exigent circumstance, it requires a full description. Now look at my front door. Don't nobody give a fuck. Yeah, somebody called them, said they seen a Hispanic male with an AK-47. They came to my door, busted my door down, and put me in handcuffs. With no warrant. Yeah, names and badge numbers.
Y'all cannot smell weed is what I am. I smell air freshener. That's what I smell. I smell like, it smells like someone has sprayed something to cover up an odor.
Is there a supervisor where I'm being forcefully now moved? With my shoes off, I'm being forcefully moved.
You don't want to put them on?
I'm sorry, what do you suspect? What crime do you suspect me of? I'm sorry, what crime do you suspect me of? I'm sorry, what crime do you suspect me of? No. I'm sorry, what crime do you suspect me of? What crime do you suspect me of? I am sorry, what crime do you suspect me of? Ma'am, what crime or do you suspect me of that you are detaining me for? Ma'am, what do you suspect me of? No, this is all illegal. Now, what crime do you suspect me of that you are detaining me for?
Y'all putting them out of the hotel?
They can't put me out of the hotel and you guys just detain me. That's not the legal way to evict a guest from a hotel. This is not the legal way to evict a guest from a hotel.
Go grab his shoes. Hurry up. We'll hold on.
You can't just grab my shoes. This is not the legal way. No, do not grab anything. Get on this elevator.
A few moments later.
I need to know who they are. They was in the
why do you need to know? What crime do you suspect us of?
Spray or whatever.
What crime do you suspect us of?
We already know that Botham Jean, who was murdered by a off-duty Dallas police officer, had marijuana in his apartment. Isn't it ironic that it took us less time to find out that he had marijuana in his apartment than it took us to find out his killer's name? And let me ask you something. I said this the other day. They always kill you twice. They have to assassinate your character. They have to make you a monster. I don't care if he had a meth lab in his house. He was there and she wasn't in an official capacity. Isn't it ironic that we know that he had weed in his apartment before we know what Amber Geiger had in her bloodstream? This is what happens. This is how they criminalize you. We are the newspaper and the news outlets, and of course it's Fox News 4, is complicit in doing the policeman's bidding. They want to
To have my son smeared in such a way, I think shows that there are persons who are really nasty, who are really dirty, and are going to cover up for the devil, Amber Geiger. I don't know my son to be involved in such. And I want to find out whether the toxicology reports on Amber has been released, because she was the murderer.
That's right.
I want to find out whether her apartment has been searched, whether her car has been searched, and also on the Saturday when we spoke to the Texas Ranger, he was saying that there was no reason in his mind that she ought to have been locked up.
In order to make things work, if you feel better because you're white and you can get a job, you use that. I mean, you know, I would.
Absolutely.
Say, I'm sorry, Jack, but shit, they say I'm white. I'm going to use this.
Right. Absolutely.
Get this job. I'm hungry, you know. But and that separates people. So they keep people separated, and that keeps them from thinking about the real problem. That's as simple as I see it. Probably it's not that simple, but...
Now, all right, you and I are about the same age, right? We're in our mid-30s. How long is it going to take before guys who think like you, and I say guys who think like me, people who don't want to have racism in the country, people who don't want to be oppressing any minority, whatever it is, sexual, whatever minority, really get into positions of power and can change things?
You can't get in a position of power, it seems, if you think like that. It seems that the only time you get in a position of power is if you're like the people that are in power.
I've been scratching and scrambling most of my days to get where I got. Now, I eats in the big house kitchen. I got pine boards on the floor of my cabin. And it don't take much coughing for the master to make me have a cup of corn whiskey for my medicine. Now, that is fine living for a nigga, and I'll be damned if any African Guinea man is gonna make me lose all I've been working for. Now, you take my meaning?
I'm gonna say, I really am sick and tired of hearing about slavery. Like, I mean, at what point are we gonna stop focusing on black past and start focusing on black future? I don't care. It doesn't impact my life. It's over. You have to move on. Everybody in the history of the world has lived through something. I'm sitting next to a Jewish guy who has lived way sooner than slavery was, just in the 1940s. They survived a near genocide, okay? At a certain point, you have to stop looking backward, and it seems that there seems to be this obsession on the left of going over your history over and over and over again. Let me tell you something. Your history is not going to help you with your future, and that's the problem that people have so much. They're so strapped to the stale existence of black history.
Almost 3 years ago, I decided to move from Chicago to Iowa to escape the black community. I decided the lifestyle of the white community in Iowa was the way I wanted to live. I don't care for the black race. I think the white race is more educated, civilized, and sophisticated. I'm embarrassed to be black. I want the white race to embrace me and treat me as if I was white.
The majority of the problems that black patients had in psychiatric hospitals, when you took a history, you would run smack into racism. So I knew I had to understand racism to help solve the mental health problems of black people.
And you say that white people are gods. You said that.
I look at them superior and I just can't stand to be black.
And you say that white people are gods. You said that.
I look at them superior and I just can't stand to be black.
And you say that white people are gods. You said that.
I look at them superior and I just can't stand to be black.
The sad thing is, for the most part, a lot of people have bought into white supremacy, both black and white, because it pays. And then they use religion against you. You think because you're making money or it's easy on you that God has blessed you. That's a lie. If I've taken all the resources on this earth and you start acting the way that I want you to act, and I give you a little bit of your resources back, and you think there's a connection between your prayers and you getting a couple of those resources back, that's some bullshit. In America, especially in our major cities, you know, everything is being co-opted and regentrified. But the same thing happened in religion, the same thing happened in music, the same thing happened, you know, in the way that we look, you know. It's a lot. I'll leave that right there.
When we learn about Thomas Jefferson, we learn about Thomas Jefferson. When we learn about George Washington, we learn about George Washington. And we're never taught to choose one over the other. When we learn about Malcolm X, we're taught it's either Malcolm X or Dr. King. It's either W.E.B. Du Bois or Booker T. Washington. It's either Tupac or Biggie Smalls. Instead of being so happy and grateful that we have these strong, powerful, dynamic men of color.
I am an African. The death of my brother is also my death. Let me put this question to you again, because many foolish black middle classes and many foolish people who are eating well think that they can sit in America and watch this country destroy the African continents, and watch this country destroy African Caribbeans, and watch this country destroy Africans in Central and South America, and think that these same people who destroy Africans abroad will not be the same people who will destroy them in America.
You cannot believe that we are going to treat people in a foreign country like this and not treat our own population of African Americans the same way.
No, we've got to become involved. Because whatever they're doing to us in Haiti, whatever they did in Zaire, in Lomé, in Ghana, it's coming to you, brother. It's coming your way, if it's not already there. Whatever they do to you, they're coming with us, to us with it. Whatever they do to us, they're coming to you with it.
To answer that question, we set up a hidden camera experiment to see if this woman would stand up at the sound of this tone, simply because everyone else is. You might be thinking you'd never go along with this. Or would you? After just 3 beeps, and without knowing why she's doing it, this woman is now conforming perfectly to the group. But what happens if we take the group away?
Elaine, please.
And the South was fighting for slavery. That's a common misconception about what actually took place. When you study the history, that was one thing that the war was about. People don't go to war for one issue.
Other things that the war was about.
I mean, I'm not a historian. I mean, you're putting me on the spot for something you know.
So we got one thing that the war is about, slavery. What are 2 other things that the war is about?
The Confederate, in general, the war was about tyranny.
What does tyranny mean?
Tyranny is any time a government overreaches and they control a life too much.
Like slavery.
Look at his lips. If you love me, let's say something very bad happened to you, bro. Let's say you got stabbed with a knife in your fucking neck. When I'm around you, Vlad, I'm not going to be spinning the knife up in the air. Even if you play with knives. You want to know why? Because I respect what you have gone through. Black people had to accept the word nigga because we didn't have a choice at one time whether we were going to be called nigga or not. It was a whole over 500 fucking years of pain that white folks never did shit about. Think about this. So if white folks really cared about what happened to black folks, they would either give money or pass laws to protect them, which they have done neither for the most part. So for white people to want to say the word nigga and act like they care about us, get the fuck out of here, dude. What is the greed and again, to me, that's white supremacy. It doesn't affect you, so you really don't give a fuck.
Goddamn shit up there my ass, I'm gonna kill your motherfucking ass.
All right, my problem, man.
Understand me?
Yes, sir.
I ain't fucking tired of your goddamn bullshit.
Yes, sir.
The problem is that you took what you felt was your authority out in the road.
No,
and you told that man. You told that man that you're gonna kill him.
No.
I'm just telling you, I can't. They had a video going, and that's terrible for you. Well, just so you know, you're under arrest. Okay?
No,
yes, you are.
We're going to end that slavery. We're not afraid of you. Oh! What kind of people you are? You want to read on the Bible while you're behaving like a Satan. What kind of people are you? You pay them 1,900 a month. What is that? How much are you earning? They were not afraid of you, man. We're not afraid of you.
This?
And there's nothing that you can do.
No.
Nothing.
Put off your phone.
Hey, hey.
You put off your phone.
Yeah, he's not
going to.
And
then you're not going to threaten me.
You're not going to do anything.
Okay.
You think it? Oh, God.
Are you police officers? Yeah, racist. Nonsense.
Costs for correctional facilities, or in other words, prisons, quadrupling in the past 20 years to $52 billion in the U.S., with taxpayers on the hook for much of that. Is there a way you can actually make crime pay? Our next guest says you bet. Reva Shakatai is Senior Vice President at RBC Wealth Management, and she joins us now. Thanks for being with us, Reva.
Thank you, Dennis.
So let's just go broad picture first. The U.S. is the most prison-prone country in the world, right? Tell us about that.
We have 2.3 million inmates in the state prison system, in the federal prison system, and in local jails. There is a difference between prison and jail.
Yes, it's 1 year, but it doesn't matter. It's not divert. Louisiana, 1 in 86 people.
1 in 86, absolutely. If you look at the country as a whole, it's 1 in 104. But if you look at both parolees and probation in addition, it's 1 in 33 people who are in the state or federal prison system.
Marijuana, loud. 2017 herb, I don't care what you call it. Weed and alcohol are the #1 chemical feminizers of black men. Why? It is a fact that we have documented. The THC chemical in marijuana, the chemical that gets you high, is what you want, which it ain't holy if you taking a herb to get high. And originally, natural cannabis on average, or marijuana on average, has a THC content of less than 1%.
Between that day and 1,700 pound slaughter day, we have 18 months. So mother's milk is not good enough for that. So we use Zeranol. Why does this matter? Well, let's go way back to the late 1970s. All of a sudden, in Milan, Italy, these little boys and girls who were 3 to 10 years old started sprouting breasts. So they tracked it back to the Zeranol used in meat. the now called EU, the European Union, has banned the use of all Zeranol in meat. But the U.S., nearly 40 years later, still uses it. The EU has banned the importation of all beef raised with Zeranol from the U.S. and Canada. And to this day, that ban exists. So here's the deal. Does it really matter that we are having a little Zeranol in our food? It turns out if you take a Petri dish and you put benign breast cells in it and drip a little Zeranol on top, it only takes 21 days for that to turn into cancer.
So in a place far, far away called the Niggerlands, they are selling diabetes cancer combo packs for $5. And I am very, very disgusted and troubled by this. When you walk into a goddamn gas station and you see this shit in the cooler, it's time to protest. It's time to boycott this shit. Like, there's no way this should even be allowed in the community. And what kind of lowlife would even come up with something like this?
Europe dumped its human garbage can into the Western world. The worst of that garbage can was dumped into the United States. Our mind in America was so depressed. We, more than any other African people in the world, needed a Marcus Garvey. We needed him to save us from believing that we were not going to make it as a people, for saving our sanity. He kept telling us that the best education that we must have for nations would have to come from ourselves. He understood then what we do not understand now. Powerful people never educate powerless people and how to take that power away from them.
Women are tossed on birth control like candy.
When the pill is suppressing the hormone that induces the ovulation, it is also suppressing the person emotionally.
And do you remember having any side effects?
Immediately, I felt myself emotionally becoming really irrational.
Almost like manic at times.
One doctor put Erica's x-ray of her lungs up on the screen and said, this was caused by the NuvaRing.
Our daughter, our 20-year-old daughter, was brain dead.
We just don't want this to happen to, any more families than it has.
It's your choice what you choose to take, but you need to make an informed choice.
Losing a child is something that we don't want anybody else to experience.
Some females report that when they're eating from the nutritional guides, their menses stop. Should they be worried about fertility?
When they said that when they eat from the nutritional guide, that the menses stop.
Some menses stop, and some feel no more pain, which is good, but some people just stop altogether. So they're worried about, well, am I fertile?
Wait, what again? Menses. Are we supposed to see, a woman supposed to see her menses every month according to the norm? Yes, not according to life. History didn't show that, doesn't show that. I am told by many ancient people that the woman used to menstruate once every 4 years.
Wow. What?
And only for 10 minutes. Right. But her body was clean.
What turns to sugar quickly? White potatoes and french fries. And white rice. Sugar. Sugar is emotionally attached to a feeling. See, I'm back to emotions. Remember, your culture gives you emotions, your reaction to your emotion is a feeling. I'm back to that. The inability to love, give love, or receive love is related to sugar. The sugar represents the love of your birthday, your love of a holiday, Christmas. So if you can't manifest love in your life, you eat the sugar, you eat the love. You see? It's emotional dysfunctionality at its best. That's why women will be up late at night eating ice cream. because they're trying to eat the love they can't get from Leroy.
All right. I'm the type of person who, once I do the research and I find something out, I like to share it with everybody. I have a regular Pyrex container here with some water in it. I have this magnet. And I actually went out and spent money on this garbage for this experiment. Take some of these Cheerios, a few of them in the water. Now, watch what happens when we get the magnet close to them. Oh my goodness. Can you see that? Hold on, we'll try another one here. You see this? That's a magnet. That is your cereal.
Happens when your dentist tells you, you know what, we need to save your tooth, or for some other reason, sometimes even cosmetic reasons, we need to do a root canal. And they drill into your tooth and they rip out the nerve from the tooth with many of these corresponding blood vessels. Then they seal that tooth shut. And what does this do? It creates an abscess in there where blood cannot reach. And what starts to form in there is rotting flesh, anaerobic bacteria. Now, if you ask any medical practitioner, any medical expert, is it okay to put rotting flesh into your body? They'll tell you, of course not. It's crazy. You're going to die. It's gangrene, basically. Well, this is common practice in dentistry right now on a daily level.
Your mom is diabetic, right?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
She's type 1?
She's type 2.
Oh, she's type 2?
Yeah, she's type 2. Yeah, so she's been type 2 for about 3 years now. But she had lost like 150 pounds, and she started eating a certain diet, and it's balanced out.
Is she still type 2?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure. Can you really just get rid of diabetes on that level?
See, people think of diabetes, they think of the insulin. Diabetes is high blood pressure. Diabetes is arthritis. Diabetes is cataracts. It's pulling the moisture out of your joints, which is causing them to rub together. Arthritis pulls the moisture out of your eyes, cataracts, and glaucoma.
Right.
All of these are pancreas diseases, but you keep saying diabetes.
Pancreas disease.
It's a pancreas disease, and that's one of pancreas's diseases, diabetes. But it didn't start overnight. The body said, okay, I'm going to give you arthritis to warn you. Okay, I'm going to make you tired. When you sit down, you're going to fall asleep.
You are filtering out certain rays of the sun, which are supposed to enter. You're blocking them out. And the pineal gland, which receives the light in a different color formation, that means the entire spectrum of light, it is necessary for the body to have that light. That's why we have a lens that breaks down the white light into 7 colors. It gets encoded with, these colors get encoded with chemicals in the pineal gland, and then they pass to the different parts of the body, which are needed for basic metabolic processes. And you make blood, red light is involved in that. You make bile, green light is involved in. So there are many different things that we need. Now, also, you have to allow UV light to come in. When you do that, you are producing a hormone in the brain that is responsible for the melanin production in your skin.
It's just when a disease goes so far and we just can't figure out what's going on, a nice category to throw it in is called cancer. And the treatment for that has never been proven successful in any situation. If radiation, chemotherapy was successful, then a healthy person could take it to be more healthy. And if you take chemotherapy and radiation and you're healthy, pretty soon you'll die. If the medicine is so good that it can help a person that's sick be healthy, why can't it help a healthier person be healthier? If you take any of these medicines, it will make you sicker. And you know these things. They have warnings on the label, harmful to your liver, may cause bleeding, may cause lesions, ulcers, sores, may cause your hair to fall out. And all that means is that it is the AIDS effect of the medicine.
This is the problem with us, the men. We don't normally carry children. They are not used to us. I am carrying a baby and a pot, and other officers are carrying firewood and babies. We want to put ourselves in the shoes of women.
murders were gruesome. All of them raped, either strangled or killed. Wife beating, battering, early marriage, all that points to violation of women's rights. And those are still happening.
A book written by a colonizer, a racist pig. Do you think that this can help your child grow? Am I saying you should not go to school? No. What is the difference between medicine and poison? It's the same thing. There is no difference. Every medicine is poison. It will kill you if that's what the doctor tells you. Take 1 teaspoon every 5 hours or every 8 hours. If you decide, hey, this pain is too much, let me take 5 teaspoons, what will happen to you? When you go to school, you have to think in terms, this is the poison you've got to have. But you have to measure how much of it, when you should take it, and sometimes maybe you just may have to say, hey, forget it.
In there, dealing with the UCC, you have also something coming out now called the RFID chip, radio frequency identification chip. Operation heard this RFID.
Sure.
Now I'm going somewhere with this specific. The RFID chip is utilized through an injection. Okay? Right. Into the hand. Now we know 666, the mark of the beast in the Bible, book of Revelations. He had the symbol of the beast in his hands as he did in his forehead. Right?
Yes.
That RFID chip has already started being pushed on the military. It is already injected into some of the people in Sweden. It is legal. They are selling it to you like this. You no longer need credit cards.
Right.
You no longer need social security cards. You don't need an ID. You don't need to carry around anything which shows your identification. It's all in this chip. And you just need to let us chip you.
I think all our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. You know, and I think that's what I sussed when I was 16 and 12 way down the line. But I expressed it differently all through my life. It's the same thing I'm expressing all the time. But now I can put it into that sentence that I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal means.
Some breaking news in New York City, and 7 NYPD under arrest tonight, charged in a gambling and prostitution operation in Queens and Brooklyn. Dozens of civilians were also arrested. Eyewitness News reporter Michelle Charlesworth is live in Canarsie with the details. Michelle.
Well, you're right. This investigation goes back 3 years that the NYPD has been working on this. Someone within the NYPD blew the whistle on this in 2015. It involves 7 officers, 3 sergeants, 2 detectives, 2 officers. We understand 2 detectives are already on modified duty.
This is America. Nobody deserves to be treated as a black man.
If anybody can put on paper what our government and the American government, etc., and the Russian, Chinese, what they are actually trying to do, you know, and what they think they're doing, I'd be very pleased to know what they think they're doing. I think they're all insane, you know, but I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. You know, that's what's insane about it.
Will be and must be strictly enforced given the numbers that we have here today. If you're over your time, Chairman Thune and I will make sure to let you...
But it is going to bother you because you're human, and I was human. I am human, still. You're human because you're human.
And I was human.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon.
If you can't beat it, join it.
We are summoning the demon.
If you can't beat it, join it.
These alien criminals, and I think that the agenda is clear. It's to turn American people into Palestinian slaves. I mean, that's what it seems to me. Just as the Israelis are treating the Palestinians there as subhumans,
and then to legitimize that, they founded Hamas, which is now admitted.
Hours later, and arrested 5 men. All 5, it turns out, were Israeli. They were turned over to the FBI. Sources tell ABC News during a check of national security databases, some of the men were listed as having had connections with Israeli intelligence.
The Mossad agents who went back to Israel and said on television that their purpose was to document the event.
Our purpose was to document the event.
Are they real? No, I mean, I'm telling you as the king of conspiracy that QAnon is a load of horse manure.
I'm glad I heard that from you.
Yes, and I think Muslim terrorists attacked us and have been attacking us. And
I agree with you on that.
And I think Sandy Hook happened.
Marinated drumsticks here. Why is stuff marinated?
Things get marinated if it's going off or it is off. They will marinate it to hide the odor, and if there are any dark spots or whatever, to mask that and then put it out for sale.
Yes, and I think Muslim terrorists attacked us and have been attacking us. And
I agree with you on that.
And I think Sandy Hook happened.
And things that are marinated actually sell for more.
You charge more for stuff that has gone past its best before date.
Yes, it was referred to as value added.
And I think Sandy Hook happened.
So because you're adding something to it, it increases the price. So in our store, things like steaks, strip loin steaks, they were going off, they were expired essentially, would be coated in some sort of barbecue marinade or cracked pepper, something with a really strong odor to hide the rotten smell.
What was the reason given for doing this?
It's all about profit and money, and the health of the consumer is not really a concern, it's how much money I can make.
As it is now inching closer and closer to the coastline, visible satellite loop, you can see that very strong convection on that north and northwestern side of the storm. Latest information from the Hurricane Hunter plane as they're flying through the system, they are noticing the eye is not completely closed on this system. On that south and southeastern side, it is an open eyeball right now. In fact, you can see that very clearly in the radar presentation. Those bands already working their way on shore, and that surge, it's already reached the coastline, especially across some of the outer.
So they're all trying to figure out, is the universe spinning around us, or are we spinning around the universe? They tell you, we don't know shit. We're looking at a bunch of lights. You're going to tell me that light and that light, that's 100 trillion light years away? How the fuck did you figure that out?
Well, don't they have an explanation for that shit?
No, exactly. That's what you just said right now. What you just said now is what everyone's natural reaction. Because anytime someone says anything about space, you automatically think, someone figured it out. You don't know the guy's name. You don't know the name of the experiment. You didn't look into it yourself. You just think when someone tells you, how far is the Earth from the sun? They'll say, 93 million miles away. Like you just, you everybody relies on someone figured that out and someone double checked it. Dude, it's math. Right. It's science. It's math. But no one really knows.
You're deceiving yourself. This is a fantasy. It only exists in your
of shea butter making. This is the sound you hear when they're teaching the children how to make shea butter. So the first process in making shea butter is washing the nuts. It is washed and then dried. So after it's dried, it's then pounded. The crushed nuts are in here. So after it's roasted, it is cooled and then grinded again. So after it's grinded and turned into a fine paste, it is kneaded. After the fat is collected, it's taken to the compound to be boiled. So after it's boiled for hours, the oil comes out like that. It turns into shea butter. Look, this is shea butter.